Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. Your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. Browns 3D, brought to you and exclusively on the OBR. I am your host, Jeff Lloyd. Certainly some changes within the last month. To everybody that reached out, you guys are awesome. Truly are. Great people. I appreciate all of you. Wasn't anticipating a change, and that's a story for another day, or maybe a never day, I guess. But we are now officially in our new home, working the kinks out here in our new home. Needed to get back talking to you all about the Cleveland Browns. Needed to get back for myself, for my sanity, certainly. A lot went down since any of you all have last heard from me. We are now here in the midst of the offseason. Certainly changes taking place already. A lot more change to come for the Cleveland Browns. But I just want to thank everybody here at the OBR. I am excited to be here. I am excited for this opportunity. The show that I was formerly the host of is kind of similar what we're going to do here. There is already a great lineup of nightly content here at the OBR. I and this show will now be the opening part of the meal. Sometimes we'll go live. Most times we'll probably just pre-record, but the shows will drop every day at 6 p.m., which will lead you into what is now your regular off-season lineup here at the OBR with great content, great personnel and talent behind the mic. We're going to do guests like we used to do, of course. We're going to get Pete Smith in here quite often. Sorry for some of you who that may not appeal to. We have a great group that I can also work through here from the OBR roster. We can talk contracts with Jack Duffin. We can bring in Lane Adams. We can bring in Brad Stainbrook for breaking news, things that are going on in the building in Berea. This is all stuff, that I've always enjoyed doing. I have certainly missed doing it. And for those who thought maybe you'd seen the last of me, that wasn't going to happen. I just have way too much to talk about. For those of you who this is the first time, I've become extremely passionate about this football franchise. I started coverage full-time of the Cleveland Browns in 2017. So I guess I just finished, my 8th year of Cleveland Browns coverage. I'm going to say right off the bat, I think that this offseason is pretty similar to the Cleveland Browns offseason transitioning from 27 to 2018. As far as, where the roster is at, there's going to be a lot of important decisions to make. The Browns don't hold the number 1 pick in this year's draft. They hold the number 2, obviously, as we all know. So we were going to get to all of this. We are absolutely going to break it all down. We are going to talk about everything. And I guess we're going to start, as far as now this being full on off season, Andrew Berry's press conference on Monday. I mean, the Browns had their GM exit press conference. I mean, the ink wasn't even dry on the final regular season game of the NFL season, and the Browns already had Andrew Berry speak the next day. I think Andrew Berry, people wanted it to be said more and more harshly. But, Andrew Berry certainly expressed his issues with the 2024 season, saying he was embarrassed by the team. I think we all were. Things you want to hear, certainly never going to be said to the degree that I think some fans would be happy with. Certainly discussed the quarterback position, which those questions about the quarterback position, conversations, debates will certainly last us into March, well into April. And then I'm sure it'll be critiqued to death for the following calendar year. It's the way it goes, right? So with Deshaun Watson and now the first hearing of maybe a setback in the Achilles injury, I was on record, and I know many others are, that it was never going to be Deshaun Watson as a serious candidate to be the Cleveland Browns quarterback in 2025. It was 3 years. Deshaun never showed any signs of being even a sliver of the once great quarterback he was down in Houston with the Texans. And a lot of people, well, where's he going to go? How's it going to work out? Well, if you keep in mind, in 2021, Deshaun Watson was just ruled, out every week. So there was no thought for me that, there was a chance he was going to be a part of this team in 2025. And I think the thing that probably really clinched it for everybody, certainly the folks in Berea and all of us watching each and every week, is how many times did we see a different quarterback other than Deshaun Watson find a high level of success? Often. Quite often. Flacco, Jameis Winston. We saw many quarterbacks play during the Deshaun Watson 3-year run here with the Browns. And except for maybe one, you could probably say that Deshaun Watson was the worst of the bunch that we saw over the 22, 23, and 24 season. The trade will go down as one of the absolute worst in sports history. That's fair. It's the way it should be viewed. It's the way it'll always be viewed. It was a terrible trade. It cost the Browns a boatload of money. It cost the Browns a lot of draft assets. It caused the Browns to try to make the roster, the staff, the system work for a $230 million investment. So even after 22, and I think everybody tried to fairly give it a pass, 23 came, and there were glimpses early. And then the last we ever saw of him, it was leading a game-winning drive in Baltimore against the Ravens. Then the team went back to playing their other quarterbacks, Joe Flacco, and we all know the way it worked out. And 23 was pretty magical. Now, in 24, by trying to not maybe put pressure on Deshaun and thinking that, hey, Ken Dorsey, some tweaks here, let's go away from what we were, will work for Deshaun. Failed miserably. I go back to, I guess it was the last play they ran against the Raiders. And it was 4th down, and we all discussed it then. Deshaun just got so gun shy. And you break down the stats and, it didn't turn it over, but he became a guy that really couldn't run anymore, or was choosing not to run anymore. But he was a guy that was now gun shy, afraid to make a mistake. Jameis Winston certainly was the polar opposite, of course. But, you can't win by holding on to the rock. And that's kind of the way it worked for Deshaun. Didn't work out well for Deshaun. Then, of course, the Achilles injury against the Cincinnati Bengals. We got some good Jameis. Then we got some bad Jameis. We got to see some DTR. We got to see some Bailey Zappi. I'll be honest with you. The Cleveland Browns need 3 quarterbacks. You're going to find a bridge guy. And we won't go names today, but, I think everybody knows the names that can possibly be in this for as far as the musical chairs. The way I'm looking at some sort of veteran bridge quarterback. I am also looking at some sort of athletic guy where it hasn't worked out. Not a guy that you're necessarily going to call a bridge, but maybe a guy with a decent year. Somewhere could be a bridge for somebody. And you're certainly going to draft one. There's no question about that. You're going to draft a quarterback in this class. I think ideally, if you're the Cleveland Browns, you want Drew Allar to play well, at least for as much longer as he's going to play at Penn State. and find a way where he feels that he should enter this draft. You want the top of this draft to at least get another quarterback name. I know everybody's feelings on the quarterback position for this class are very mixed, and I agree with every one of you. It certainly is not a class like it was last year. So if Drew Allar can come out, I think there's a lot of traits there that teams certainly drafting high, and it could be the Cleveland Browns themselves, will find in Drew Allar that they want to have be part of their team, without a question, of course. Certainly more quarterbacks that you can get in this class who have the ability to go high gives the Browns the opportunity to trade down, which for me right now, it's the question is it's not whether you like Shedeur Sanders, you like Cameron Ward, or you like possibly Drew Allar. You have to love them. So the Browns can fill a quarterback room with three guys, like I said, a bridge, a young guy trying to get that second shot, a rookie. That's not the same thing as committing to one of these three guys at the top. Even if it's two or you trade it down, Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski are only going to get to go big money, and quarterbacks never hit free agencies, obviously. Browns are only going to get one more big-time swing at a quarterback. Is it more likely than not they'll take that swing in 26 and 25? We'll see the way it works, certainly. They're not going to get another opportunity. And, for many who say they shouldn't be getting an opportunity to even get another swing at finding their franchise quarterback, it's a fair argument. I've said it all along. If you felt heads should roll because of the Deshaun Watson trade, you're not wrong. It's very rare that you have a transaction of that magnitude in professional sports. Hell, even in the business world, you took a roll of the dice like that and it failed miserably, that you'd keep your job. So to anybody that feels that way, I get it. I'm still more than okay with Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry running this team. I know people have accused me of being homers for both of them, whatever. I like longevity. And, you look at some of the successful teams in this league, and yes, you get your newcomers and, they get a team going, Jim Harbaugh, blah, 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 blah. But your Andy Reids, certainly your Mike Tomlins, guys that are just as synonymous with the franchise as the logo. They're going to have to get better, certainly. There's no question about it. This team is going to have to get better. I think this team got away from what its identity was in 2024. And, that's one of the biggest factors, certainly. We'll get more time to talk quarterback, certainly more as, the weeks and months go on. Also, from Andrew Berry's presser, we learned, and I understand, and I'm starting to learn more that, you OBR insiders, you guys are getting a lot of this information before it is hitting the mainstream. So Mike Hall, the injury was an MCL, suffered the final Saturday for the Cleveland Browns against the Baltimore Ravens. Difficult, certainly. Mike, everybody knows the rookie season was rocky. But as the season was closing out, Mike was really starting to come along with Juwan Briggs, Isaiah McGuire. If anybody remembers from my former home, this was one thing I was trying to highlight as one of the more important things to close out what was going to be a dim 2024 season for the Browns. So it's going to be, a long road for Mike Hall. I believe surgery. I believe when we got the news on the injury, I believe the surgery will be for next week. And, then begins a long rehab process, certainly for Mike Hall. But as I said, one of the big spots and bright spots, hopefully for this team going down the stretch, was going to be Mike Hall. It was going to be Juwan Briggs. It was going to be Isaiah McGuire. And all three showed out very well. But obviously, certainly tough spot for, my call. As we got the news about whatever this possible setback it was for Deshaun Watson, you certainly heard it sound abundantly clear from Andrew Berry that it was time to really address the quarterback position. They had given this experiment all the time they possibly could. Certainly did not work out for them in any way whatsoever. So it's something, that's going to be probably the biggest focus of the Cleveland Browns all season this year. Is certainly going to be the quarterback position, no question about it. Not necessarily the best year to be looking to basically redo your entire quarterback room, or to, find the guy, which is again why I'm preaching throw as many darts as possible. Wink, wink, pun intended. Yes. Find 3. Go to camp with 4 with DTR. If you want to bring 5 to camp, bring 5 to camp. Get as many in there. Maybe somebody pans out. Maybe somebody really pans out, a la a Sam Darnold last year type of thing. Also, certainly Myles Garrett came up at the Andrew Berry press conference. And, Myles, we've seen a different side of Myles to close out the season. The frustration, talking more like the leader that he is. And he's not wrong. Everything he says is right. I think a lot of people misconstrued things from what Myles spoke about. I think they took those things to be, my bags are packed and I'm out of here, which I don't necessarily think is the case. This is going to be, even if you were going to do it, this is such a tricky draft. The first round of the 2025 NFL draft, every single team holds their first round pick. That almost never happens. That's just a complete oddity. So, a lot of that factors into how teams maneuver this time of year. And ideally, if you were the Browns, you'd be looking for a team with 2 first-round picks. Was there a time that Myles may have been worth 3? Probably. Is he still worth 3? I don't know, 29. Still, in my opinion, the best defensive player in the NFL. And certainly, you don't know what somebody is worth till they put on the market. But I think Myles' comments were more of, the words he was saying. I think he also meant that included players like Denzel, players like Joel Bitonio, players like Wyatt Teller, players like Jack Conklin, that they want to see the path. And I honestly believe when they said they wanted to see the path, I believe the way Myles Garrett was saying those words meant that he knew the team invested so heavily in their, I guess he's still quarterback, soon to be former quarterback Deshaun Watson, that they all knew it wasn't working. They all knew it wasn't there. Ball don't lie, right? Well, players, in my opinion, are the ultimate judge of what is and what isn't. Myles Garrett has been in this league a long time now. 8 years. Myles Garrett knows what's good. Myles Garrett knows what's not good. Now, he spoke up, and good for him. And, I think, number one, the fans wanted to hear the players speak up. There have been reports that there have already been meetings with Myles. Again, I don't think Myles is in any hurry to run out of the door here. I know some people want to use the fact that he's got some ownership in the Cavaliers. I don't think that has anything to do with it. I think, Myles I think he's happy here. He's just not happy with the way the situation is currently working, in my opinion. And again, all right, he wants to see how this team can become not just a good team in 2020, not just a good team in 2023, how this team can be in a consistent run for playoffs every single season. And they are willing to spend the money. So certainly that should factor in Myles' favor. I know there's a lot of confusion about, with Deshaun being on the books this year, that the Browns have no money. I suggest if you don't know who Jack Duffin is, you come over to the OBR and you find Jack Duffin's work, and Jack Duffin will explain to you that the Cleveland Browns still can have a high operating cost for the 2025 season. Now, right off the bat, the Browns moved on from offense coordinator Ken Dorsey and Andy Dickerson, offensive line coach. Certainly did not bode well for Andy Dickerson that, as the season was coming to a close, it was reported that Mike Vrabel was doing a lot of the offensive line work. Mike Vrabel seemed like he was doing a lot of work. Not going to lie to you. Browns, whatever they paid him, they certainly got their money's worth because Mike Vrabel was doing a lot of work for this franchise. Mike is going to be, obviously interviewing in several cities for his own next head coaching job. You have to believe, the New England Patriots job has high appeal to it. You have to believe with Tom Brady, however he is, structured into the Las Vegas Raiders ownership group, will have a lot of appeal to Mike Vrabel as well. Ken Dorsey, everybody's heard the stories. The Browns basically got a, buyer beware from the Buffalo Bills, from Ken Dorsey, and he was fired. So I'm assuming when they got the, the warning and the buyer beware from the Buffalo Bills, they probably weren't shocked. I don't think for a guy that was fired by Buffalo, they expected the Buffalo Bills to give them a glowing endorsement on Ken Dorsey. But again, that did not work. And it was probably done more for Deshaun Watson than it was for the overall team. A lot of talk about Tommy Rees going to be interviewing, of course, for the offense coordinator job here with the Cleveland Browns. And Tommy Rees is a very, very hot name. And keep in mind, it's not just NFL circles. It is also college football circles. Tommy Rees is a very hot name. And, he is going to be a guy on the rise quite quickly. Could be a guy that goes and gets an offense coordinator job this year. And then it's, maybe off to a head coaching job somewhere for 2026, whether it's in the NFL or certainly within college football. Is it a slam dunk that Tommy Rees is going to take this job? I got to be honest. Don't be surprised if Tommy Rees doesn't take the job. Mike Vrabel, wherever he goes, there will be other opportunities with other teams. And for Tommy Rees to hitch his wagon to a quarterback room for the Cleveland Browns for 2025, that is just a straight mystery box. So he has to commit to be the Browns offense coordinator for the 2025 season and have no inclination whatsoever what quarterbacks he would be working with to make the offense work, to pad his resume. I mean, betting on blind faith, betting on absolute blind faith. New England Patriots certainly would be an opening. Drake May, would you basically, put your butt on the line for Drake May, or put your butt on the line for three quarterbacks that you have no idea right now who they are? So as much as Tommy Rees is a great name and a nice story, and certainly a guy on the rise, I'm not sure how it works. And, I'm not saying, it can't happen. And I'm not saying the Browns can't offer him, a ton of influence within the building, could also probably be the de facto quarterback coach, all of that type of stuff. Even if they said, we're going to, take every thought you have as far as the quarterback position is concerned, we're going to take all that into effect. And it still might not matter, because he'd be betting again on blind faith. So it's certainly going to be interesting how all these things work out. Catherine Hickman is up to interview for the Tennessee Titans general manager job. Great story, certainly. If she were to get it, the Browns would recoup 2 third-round picks. 1 in this year's draft, the 2025 class, 1 in 2026. We'll see if she gets it. So, great story, certainly. And, for anybody who's unfamiliar with me, I am 100% for, the best people getting the job. I don't care about color. I don't care about gender. I don't care about any of that stuff. I want to see good people succeed. So now getting back to one of my earlier points of 2017 kind of mirroring this offseason, 17 to 18, and of course 24 to 25, the quarterback position, certainly the running back position. There's a lot. And, for the Browns and, in some meetings we've had here, talking with the guys at the OBR, just, about putting together our off-season content. And, my thought process is simple. There is nothing. There is no stone that can't be overturned right now. You want to talk about the secondary? Certainly can talk about the secondary. You want to talk about the linebacker position? Yeah, everything with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah sounds pretty scary. Hopeful that he can return to football in 2025 certainly scares the daylights out of you. And for JOK, it became such a great rise and became such a great leader for this team and such an outstanding performer on the field. You're certainly hoping for the best in this situation, no question about it. And, even weirder and kind of sad for JOK is that he hasn't even gotten to that extension yet. Just finished out his rookie contract, was about to hit his nice big fat extension for the 2025 season. The defensive line, I mean, if you're not going quarterback early, you look at what that draft can offer you. Mason Graham, Abdul Carter, you get Alex Wright back, hopefully Mike Hall. It's, not a big miss of the 2025 season. Juwan Briggs, who I never understood why they didn't try to get the kid on the field sooner in the season. We'll see on Dalvin Tomlinson, Alex Wright returning. But yeah, there's conversations, and you certainly, want to add a guy of prominence on that defensive line for that team. Quarterback, running back, tight end, wide receiver. The offensive line certainly is going to be interesting. I think and granted, it wasn't a big amount that we saw DeJuan Jones. But I think if you had a good and functional left guard through right tackle, I think you would have found a way that the DeJuan Jones at left tackle would have worked. We've talked about DeJuan massively over the last couple of years. And, run blocking is just going to be an issue with him because as big as he is, it's hard for him to get himself set. Not to mention that guys are scared to death to get poster boarded or basically get dropped into a grave by DeJuan Jones, that they're doing anything and everything they can to get out of his way. But these are all things, and there are a million topics that concern the Cleveland Browns that we are going to talk about here. And we will carry it in to draft season, which I guess technically is underway. Combine, free agency, certainly the NFL draft. I'm very excited to be here. I'm very excited to take this ride with you all here. The show will be called Browns 3D, from the line, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. We got, some things coming here as far as artwork and setting everything up and getting accommodated here in my new home with my new teammates. Well, it's weird to say, was part of a network, but was more of a solo, but very, very excited to be part of everything that's gone on here at the OBR. Certainly thanks to Barry McBride. Certainly a big thanks to my good friend, Pete Smith. Again, don't hold it against me. I am really, really excited to be here and to start this anew. And for everybody who was here with me before, come on over. We're going to have a good time. And for everybody who it's the first time, I appreciate y'all. Stick around. And Browns 3D will be the beginning part of an outstanding lineup of shows for you over here on the OBR network. Could not be more excited. And I've said it in the past, and I will say it again. When it comes to covering the Cleveland Browns in the offseason, I will not be outworked. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. We'll see y'all soon. Make sure you subscribe over here at the OBR on YouTube. Make sure you're following at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd. And we'll talk to y'all tomorrow.